Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here's your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a great Sunday morning. Thanks for joining us again for another Sunday morning of Faith in Our Hometown. We're glad you're here. I'm still very humbled by the fact that you all tune in, and I'm very humbled by the fact that you actually stop me in the grocery store and things like that, and tell me what you're thinking. So if you got ideas for stories or things like that, please make sure that you get in touch with us so that we can get some of that good news spread that you've got going out here in the community. But this morning we're going to be talking a little bit about the fact that sometimes churches evolve into different kinds of ways of worship. Some of the ways that we worship now wouldn't have appealed to people, 40 years ago, but now people are sometimes asking for different things and we're trying different things. And so we're going to be talking to one of the younger church leaders here in our area, somebody from First Community Church, Kaden and he's going to be talking with us about contemporary worship music and theater and maybe some newer ways to engage a new generation of folks. So grab your coffee or do whatever you're going to do and stay with us for this episode of Faith in Our Hometown. We'll be right back.
The whole purpose of screening is to catch people who have a significant smoking history early enough where we can do something about it and potentially improve the duration of life. The minimum recommendation for screening is 30-pack years. So usually people who've smoked more than 30-pack years are the ones that we're screening. If we start screening yearly with low-dose CT scans, we can reduce the risk of death from lung cancer by 20 to 25%. Stage 1, 2, and 3 cancers potentially can be cured. When it becomes stage 4, the possibility of cure falls significantly.
Well, again, thanks for joining us again for another Sunday morning of Faith in Our Hometown. My guest this morning, Kaden Props. Kaden, it's good to have you with us. So tell our viewers a little bit about you and how you got going in this whole thing.
All right, thank you for having me. So I've always been in music and in the music world ever since I was really little. Our school had a talent show, and when I was in kindergarten, I dressed up all in my flag gear and sang Your Grand Old Flag. So that's how it got started.
Perfect.
And then
there you go. So if I'd have known, we could have done this in July.
Exactly, yeah.
You'd have been able to do it again for us, but yeah.
I don't think the vest still fits, but we'll try next time. But from there, I just kept getting more involved in music, and I was singing at my home church in Purdy, Missouri, a lot. Okay. And around the age of 15, I took over as kind of the choir director there for a little bit. And so we didn't have the big choir that sang every Sunday. We usually had one that sang around Christmas time and around Easter. And so I kind of got to do those two, and it started out really fun, but I didn't think that would go anywhere. I was like, oh, okay, it's fun here, it's, at church and everything, but I don't want to go to school for that. I thought I was going to be a performer. And then my senior year, I got a call from Dr. Charlo at Missouri Southern, and I went and auditioned for him, and I just kind of fell in love with being a choir director. And so from there, I've just kind of branched out, and now every fall break and spring break that I have from school, I go to area schools and work with their choirs for a day. And so it's been a great experience getting immersed into the choir world and becoming a choir director.
Well, I will tell you, and Dr. Charlotte knows that I think this, but I am amazed at what he is able to do.
Oh, yeah.
Here at a school the size of Southern. I mean, we're a smaller school as state universities go.
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you that he gets, and this community gets a great bang for their buck out of the music program at Southern. I am just always in awe. I mean, I've had some of the best musical moments living here in Joplin, listening to you and your forebears in the program and do some phenomenal music.
Yes.
And I'm always impressed. So, but that aside, you got into this, so you're not only now you've decided you're going to do choir stuff and you're going to kind of follow in that footsteps. Yeah. Are you sure you're going to do that in the church realm, or are you
I'm going to continue to do it in both. So I am the choir director at First Community right now, which was an amazing opportunity that just kind of came out of nowhere. I had a friend of mine just email me, say, hey, this job came open, you might go look at it. And so I found their webpage and saw that they had a choir director position open, and so I kind of just sent my application in, not knowing what could or couldn't happen. And I thought to myself, the worst they could say is no to a 20-year-old who wants to be a choir director.
Right.
And so that was last November, and then from there, Pastor Russ and I just kind of hit it off, and it made a very good fit. And so going on into the future, I would love to stay there, or if life takes me elsewhere, I would love to find another church to be choir director at. So I definitely want to do both school and choirs in the church world too, because I think there's so much that could be done in both, and I absolutely love doing it.
Yeah. Well, I think when somebody's got a passion for music, if they can find the right niche, it's a good thing. And you obviously seem to have that passion, which is a good thing. So, First Community, so tell me a little bit about the flavor of the worship that they've had, and then what are you seeing for some of your vision as you move toward the future?
Yeah, so it's a very traditional church that we sing the hymns and everything like that, which I grew up doing and I kind of have a passion for too. But I do like dipping my toe in some different stuff every now and then, and so I came on the very first Sunday of December this last year. And so we were getting ready for Christmas, and I was trying to find some more Christmas-themed things. And I remembered a song that I did back in high school that was kind of Christmas-themed, and it was called African Noel. And it was all sung in English, but it had a tune that was actually taken from an African tribe set to English words. And I kind of thought that would actually be a lot of fun. And so from there, I got the choir kind of on board. They were very hesitant at first because it was something that they really hadn't done before. And we kind of
stretched them.
Yeah, I did.
How dare you, Kaden? How dare you stretch them?
And so from there, I kind of played with them a little bit, and they got into it, and we had a lot of fun.
Good.
And from there, we've kind of reached out to different schools that possibly, before COVID happened, they were going to come over and join us. We had one school, and it was my alma mater, Purdy High School, that came with their audition choir, and we both learned the same song, and they got to join us one Sunday morning and sing the same song with us, which was excellent and really neat. And there was a solo part in it, and my old high school choir teacher got to do it while I was directing, and so it was a fun little turn of the tables too. Yeah.
It's kind of like, yeah, the teacher, the student has become the teacher.
Exactly.
I like it. I like it. It's a good thing.
Yeah. But just kind of branching out and doing those things. And the sad thing is right now with COVID going on, we haven't been able to meet as a choir since March.
Yeah.
And so we're figuring out different ways to still do some things. There was talk of maybe doing a virtual choir if we couldn't get together soon. But we're looking at different opportunities that could happen.
So say a little bit more about that, because I've seen some things online with different groups. In this age of COVID, let's talk a little bit about the fact that singing is one of the worst things you can do in church if you're trying to keep people safe.
Yep.
So choir members singing around each other, they're spraying the air with all kinds of particles.
Yeah.
If the choir's singing at the people, they're spraying. So we have had to shrink down our music.
Oh yeah.
In every church I know that's using what I would consider any sense.
Yeah.
But we've had to shrink down what we're doing with music because we're trying to keep everybody safe.
Yeah. And so I actually, when the whole thing started, I sat in on several Zoom meetings with choir directors, church and school, all across the country, and made some great contacts there. But we talked about, what do we do when we can't sing? And so there have been many things that have come out regarding how to sing safely or getting together and singing in the same room. And so I've been trying to keep up with a lot of those studies because we're slowly and surely learning more ways that we can sing safely around each other. It's not a definite thing like this will keep you safe, but there are precautions that are being met so that maybe a month or two down the road we can finally get a choir together again who can be socially distanced on a stage or platform or something like that, but still be able to sing together.
Now say something about the virtual choir, because that's again something that I've seen in other areas. There's a lot on YouTube and things that have been happening. So say a little bit about that, because many of our viewers may not understand how would you do a virtual choir?
So I was actually a part of one that Dr. Charlo put together with the chamber choir, and it was really cool because it's the first one that I'd ever done, and we were actually mentioned in Forbes magazine when we did it, so it was kind of wow,
Yeah.
But when we have to put it all together, we don't actually get to sing together, which is the sad part about it. We all have to go to, you know, our own separate places and just record our part. And then on his end, and whoever else he's working with, he has to cut and paste all of the videos together and all the editing together. And so we're all sitting there with a device in front of us that's recording us, and then another device off to the side that we've got an earphone into, so that we can hear
the same key.
be in the same key and be in the same time and all of that. So it was a little difficult, very stressful too, when you're singing by yourself over and over for an hour, because always you're your worst critic. And so I'm sitting there and I was like, that's not the right video.
No.
Yeah,
ditch that one. I'm going to do it again.
Exactly.
Take 32.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So, but it's a long process, but the completion of it all that comes in the end is just beautiful. I mean, I sit there and I watch it, and I miss singing with all of those people.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
nothing is. I mean, I have an inordinate amount of choral music in my personal listening library, you know, because that's just and I've not gone digital yet. I'm not just so I you know, I'll sit and I'll listen to something and I'll just, you know, and I keep thinking about the fact that we can't do some of that in church, you know, at least not the same way for the time being.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just one more like little weirdness about time, you know, singing in church in time of plague.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes I just, little tear will just leak out of the corner of my eye because, you know, just like we don't get to do it the way we want to do it.
Yeah, the hardest part for me being a church choir director is we didn't have an Easter service. And I had this big Easter, you know, music plan, because, I mean, it's big, triumphant time. And it was really hard to kind of just put all of that aside for maybe next year if we get together and get to do that. So, yeah, being able to be together again. I will probably shed a tear when I actually hear my choir sing together safely again.
And again, because it's something that, you know, that's kind of like, you know, I've just been amazed at the amount of imagination, because I shouldn't be, but the amount of imagination that has been used by artists to still somehow do the process, to do the art.
Oh yeah.
To you know, to make sure that it still happens even though we're so tamped down.
Yeah. And I applaud all of those people, because I'm sometimes the negative Nelly and thinking like, oh, this will never work. You know, I wish I could do this, but I can't. But then there's people out there that get creative and they're like, but wait, I think we can find a way to do it. And so I applaud them, and I want to take some of those techniques into my future, because I mean, it's great that we've had these people to do this new way of singing together with everything going on.
Yeah, and again, I should have never doubted the imagination of the artists to figure out some way of bringing it together. But my guest this morning, Kaden Props, who is the choir director, very young choir director at First Community Church. Give them some kudos for a little innovation there. But taking the old and bringing some of the new. And we're just here talking a little bit about contemporary worship and how to do some of those things. So we're going to be right back after a real quick break, and we're going to talk a little more about maybe some of the dreams, because I know he hasn't had a chance to, you know, to really get to do it yet, but he's dreaming about it. So we're going to be right back after a quick break.
You're watching Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
So, thank you for staying with us for another Sunday morning of Faith in Our Hometown. My guest this morning, Kaden Props, First Community Church, also of Missouri Southern fame, if you will. And so, but we're glad to have you with us this morning and talking a little bit about, you know, life in choirs in the time of plague. So, where do you want to go? So you've had this traditional choir. You did this little African piece, which I think is great. I've been in more trouble because I've been forcing some of the people at St. Peter's to sing 30 words in Spanish. But it's okay. I'm stretching them too. God help us.
Yeah.
But you know, sometimes you just gotta get in there and you gotta realize, wait a minute, this is bigger than me.
Yeah.
So I love that you were using some African stuff with First Community, and so where do you want to go? What's your vision there? Let's get your imagination going for what you want to see going.
Yeah, I would love to grow the choir some more so that we have some more voices to play with and get some more more people in there that want to do some different things. And so my choir has been very flexible with some of the stuff that I've thrown at them, because I mean, they've just kind of gone with it because they're like, okay, this is the new guy, maybe it'll wear off. Who knows if they're saying that or not, but
you know, you're going to get it for the first few years. You
Yeah.
will get a little bit, but he's young.
yeah.
He's young. It's okay.
But I would love to see them kind of expand their library, because they have a great library already there, but doing some different things that could resonate with them in a different sense. Because me growing up in a small Baptist church and everything, music was a lot of my passion, and that's where I got a lot of my ministry from, especially very young, learning all of those Bible songs that everybody knows. And so that was the way that I connected through my faith, was through music. And so I want to bring people in that have that connection too, so that we can keep expanding on different ways that we can grow their faith through music. And so if we can just keep building on that and find ways to keep people comfortable too, because you don't want to do things that turn people away from music or
Right.
turn people away from their church or anything.
Well, you don't want to just take away what's been so helpful and fruitful.
Exactly.
But there's always something.
Yeah, and so I don't
new.
want to go in and completely change everything, but introducing some new stuff every once in a while that we could have fun with, and that isn't, you know, the normal around here, would be something that I strive for.
Yeah, I will say that, I mean, doing campus ministry for the last 27 years has kept me a little bit on, young and on
Yeah.
the edge, because our college students want it's just like, you want a little bit, and they've seen a lot of praise and worship music, and they've done some of that stuff, which really doesn't always fit real well with our liturgy, but you always try to find a spot for it, you know, so well, here's a spot where that actually could really work really well. So why don't we do that here and then do that? But like, some of the most fun they've ever had was like when we start pulling out things like a Caribbean rhythm, for an Alleluia.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we're doing that, and they're just like, hey, Father Jacob, we sing that again this week. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you're onto something when when you can, with your music direction, you start chuckling, because it's just like students will go over and say, can we sing that thing we sang last week, because that was really good. It's like, well, maybe not this week, but we'll do it again in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Thanks. We're glad you like it. So we'll try that again in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm definitely one that I like changing up the old in just a little bit of, a way. So I try and find a lot of the hymns that we usually do, but in a different kind of arrangement or style. And so that, exactly what you were saying. And so it just gives them a new light on that song, and it kind of gives a different feel instead of singing the same thing over and over again. Because the very first time that I moved over here to Joplin from Purdy and started going to church, I was singing in a choir at another church, and they did an arrangement of Just As I Am that I'd never heard before. And let's be honest, growing up in a Southern Baptist church, I waited for someone to go to the altar after 34 verses of Just As I Am, and so I was, that's what I grew up singing every Sunday. And then going to a different church and having a different arrangement of that, it gave me a new appreciation for it, and it let me listen to the words a little bit differently. So I like tweaking the old a little bit, where you have this new profound sense of, oh, this is what the words mean here now too. So yeah.
I that's just one of those hidden pleasures that you don't get to do with a lot of other people, but all of a sudden you hear something in a completely different way.
Oh yeah.
Just because, again, it's a different arrangement, or somebody else went after it.
Yeah.
And you're like, and again, I'm one of those weird people that like, for example, I every once in a while get my students to give me their favorite love songs, and then I'll start talking about, are those, can those really be hymns?
Yeah.
At the same time. Now, not that we're going to use them in our, worship necessarily, but I would sometimes use it as a theme to preach on, just because, they're just like, oh my God, I can't believe you used that one. It's just like, because to me, any love song can be, kind of, resonant of our relationship with God.
Exactly, yeah.
And so I just, there's certain things like that I
and
love.
there's many songs out there that you could definitely bring into the church world that wasn't necessarily written for the church. One that comes to mind is actually a musical theater song from the musical Dear Evan Hansen that was on Broadway, and it's a song called You Will Be Found. And a lot of it has to do with if you're depressed or feeling suicidal, what the show is based around, and so that song is kind of based around it too. But when you kind of pull it out of that context and you're just listening to it, it really hits home with like the church family, because last summer I lost my dad very suddenly, and the first people to come to our aid besides family was the church family.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things
That's what
that
they're for.
Exactly.
That's what they're for.
And so you know, when I thought I was lost, I had all of these people that kind of helped me guide, you know, the way, and I could lean on them, you know, and it was truly an amazing moment. And so when I heard this song kind of just out of context from the musical, I was like, man, that would actually be very fitting in a church. And so people just kind of get into this little like pigeonhole of, oh, I can only do church songs at church. But no, if something fits, you know, do that, you know, because you never know what people need in that moment in time. So
I find that that's much easier to bring them in terms of preaching than it is in terms of actually, you know, getting the piece done a different way.
Yeah.
You know, because again, sometimes you know, that's like that's for me open up Pandora's box, because you know, somebody will come. You know, I did grow up in the 60s and 70s, which means that, yes, you know, at one point in time, somebody for the Feast of the Ascension wanted to do Leaving on a jet plane. So, I mean, sometimes that just doesn't always work.
No, not all the time.
And so you got to be judicious, and you've got to be very strategic, and you got to do those things. But again, a good choir director and a good attempt to try to make sure that you're engaging everybody in that level, because that's going to engage. I mean, you know, that'll leave some of my people that don't want musical theater in the dust, but the ones that do tie in those ways, you know, I automatically know that I'll have 20% of the crowd going, you know, to do some of that, because again, engaging something that matters, you know, to do some of that. Or, you know, I think when you know, we had the funeral of actually our you know, our producer, one of our first producers, the one who actually conceived this show.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and convinced me to do it. When Alzar died, you know, he and his wife, you know, produced for the Oak Ridge Boys forever, and they had written a song earlier on that when they listened to it, it was just like, that's absolutely perfect. And it's called "There's One More Star Up in Heaven Tonight."
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't able to do it in the liturgy, but I sure could do it in the homily.
Yeah.
You know, and it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
In the way that all that stuff came together. But again, it takes the right people, and it takes the right piece of music and you know, to do all that stuff. So yeah, it's always interesting.
Yeah.
It's always an experiment. It's a living laboratory, as liturgy is. It's kind of like choir.
Yeah.
Yeah. A living laboratory.
Yeah. And I mean, I definitely think that some people get into their mind that, you know, there's only specific music for specific things, when really that, you know, hasn't been the case here lately. And I say lately, but I mean, one of the instances that comes to mind where it kind of ties in Christianity with musical theater, I mean, there's two shows that I think of right off the bat, Jesus Christ Superstar and Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And so it's really amazing because they're Bible stories told through music, and they have the comedy in them and they have the theatrics in them, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty, you have, you know, the Bible stories there, and it is, I mean, absolutely fabulous that we can kind of combine those two. And it's not for everyone, and I'm not saying everybody should have to love them if they're a Christian, but it's nice that we kind of have that connection there. So.
Well, and the one, and again, I think I'll just up that one even to think Godspell, because then you actually got an attempt to proclaim a gospel message in a fresh new way for people to be able to do that, and it made it accessible. And again, it's been made accessible now 3 times around, because the third time it's been, you know, you know, revived and brought back. Yeah. And still the message was new each time. You know, with just different tweaks and different ways of approaching it. Yeah, I actually used "Beautiful City" from that not too long ago. Because it was just exactly where we were going, you know, in terms of some of that. Actually, about the beginning of the plague, I think I did. Yeah. Interesting. So, yeah. So, you know, so you're 20.
21 now.
21. Oh, there you go. See, you're getting ancient on me. Yeah. So you're 21, and, you know, so now you got this dream of going forward, bringing, you know, your old traditions, and you're growing up and trying to give it a little bit of a twist for the 21st century. Yeah. Which is great. Yeah. So do you feel like this is a calling? Do you feel like you just stumbled in it just because you wanted a music thing? Tell me a little bit about that in terms of the passion of where you're coming from.
I definitely feel like it was a calling, because originally I kind of just told myself that I couldn't be a choir director ever. I was going to be a performer. That's where I was destined to be. And then through Purdy High School, I was able to do a program my senior year where I got to go in and co-direct the middle school choir. And so I kind of just did it to fill my time and have fun, and it was more music. But by the end of my senior year, I was like, oh, this is what I need to do. And this is the reason why I started directing my church choir at 15. And so since then, I've been finding ways to immerse myself with my music in church and in school. So,
well, good for you.
Thank you.
Again, my guest this morning, Kaden Props, who is the choir director at First Community Church. We're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute.
Lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths in the U.S., and now we have an effective tool to screen for it. A low-dose CT uses a lower amount of radiation than a standard chest CT.
Breathe in.
Better detailed pictures than a chest x-ray of small abnormal areas of the lung. A person must be between 55 to 77 years old, asymptomatic, which means they don't have any symptoms such as coughing up blood, chronic cough, shortness of breath, unusual weight loss, or any other worrisome symptoms. They must also be a current smoker or have quit within the past 15 years, also must have a 30-pack year history or more, which equates to smoking 1 pack a day for 30 years, or 2 packs a day for 15 years. People generally avoid these scans possibly due to fear of what could be found. Like many other cancers, if we can detect lung cancer early, it could be very treatable and life-saving.
Well, again, thanks for joining us for another Sunday morning of Faith in Our Hometown. My guest this morning, Kaden Props, was just kind of living his life and going to church and doing his thing, and then all of a sudden winds up with another opportunity that led to another opportunity that led to another opportunity, and now he is one of our choir directors in one of our churches, basically looking for ways to connect a little bit of the new with something that's been going on for a long, long time. And it's that kind of innovation, it's that kind of thing that we look for among our younger members to kind of keep stirring us up to look at things maybe in a little bit of a different way, to maybe look at things with fresh eyes. But that's, I think that what most of us would want in our church communities is to take what we've had for a long time and continue to figure out how it lives and breathes in a new era. So thanks for joining us again this morning. And so I hope wherever church takes you, and I hope it takes you somewhere, that you'll join us again next Sunday for Faith in Our Hometown. God bless and have a great Sunday.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen Sunday mornings at 6:30 and 9 a.m. on KSN. Brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.